Hey, I'm John F. Gately. You can call me Jack, broadcasting to you from beautiful Plymouth, Massachusetts. It looks like a beautiful spring day, early summer, you could almost say, here in Massachusetts. But we have breaking news. If you have not been watching over the last 3 or 4 days, there has been a lot moving over the wires, and we have more breaking news this morning. I want to let you know about a quick programming note of what's going to happen today at this channel. First off, we're going to do our regular John F. Gately show today, now 9 a.m., and then we will be back, as I think we've done one time before, for a live stream of the U.S. Attorney's press conference at 11:30 a.m., when we usually start late. But we will be back for that. That'll be broadcast on like YouTube, but we can like bring it into the feed and you'll be able to watch it through my feed on X, and we'll watch it and react in real time as if there's any other type here on X. So the Gately show now at 9 a.m. and the very important Leah Foley U.S. Attorney press conference at 11:30. And that press conference is going to be details of a massive enforcement action by the federal government to arrest illegal aliens here in Massachusetts. Bill Malugin, who has been following this story. And if you have not been following this story, the mainstream media in Massachusetts is basically getting blown away by Bill Malugin by over the last 3 or 4 days. He has just crushed this story and has been way ahead of all of your local news outlets. Let's bring up his breaking news tweet from just within the last 30 minutes or so. Multiple sources confirmed to Fox News that ICE targeted Massachusetts and Boston in its biggest operation yet, netting arrests of 1,461 illegal aliens in Massachusetts and Greater Boston. 790 had convictions or charges, while 277 had final orders of removal and deportation. The operation ended on Saturday. So, as you know, we also have this other local issue that's brewing in Milford, where the 18-year-old high school student was detained and arrested, and he's in ICE custody as we speak. And Governor Healy is demanding immediate answers. Well, it seems as if she's going to get some immediate answers about that and all of these issues at 11:30 with U.S. Attorney Leah Foley, because it's likely that the high school student was somehow caught up in this surge, we'll call it, second surge, if I'm not mistaken, somehow caught up in this surge. And we won't have probably details on his specific case, but it's highly likely that he is part of the collateral problem that occurs in a sanctuary district like Massachusetts and many of the communities here in Massachusetts. And so if you're not familiar with the term collateral, it means that ICE is out there looking for people that are here illegally, especially the worst of the worst, right? Criminals, as described by Bill Malugin. 790 criminal convictions or charges, 277 had final orders. So what's 800 plus 300? That's 1,100. So they got 1,100 people that were the worst of the worst, and they picked up another 400 and something that were probably collateral. You always have to ask yourself, what is not happening? What did not happen with the Milford High School student? The answer is, we didn't hear from his parents. Did you? I heard a tearjerker interview from the girlfriend, but for some reason, we didn't hear from the parents. Does anybody in the Boston media point that out? No, nobody points that. Why didn't we hear from the parents? Anybody? Bueller? I don't know. maybe they're in the country illegally, just like their kid. And who's to blame? Who's to blame for how irresponsible do you have to be as a parent to bring your child into a country illegally, knowing that someday, something like what happened late last week might happen, right? They are to blame. They are the ones to blame, back to Bill Malhusian. And we'll get back to that story out of Milford in a minute. The operation was dubbed Operation Patriot, ran most of the month of May in direct response to sanctuary policies in Massachusetts, Boston, and other locations in greater Boston, ICE sources tell Fox. Fox is told that hundreds of arrested targets had been released by sanctuary districts in Massachusetts. ICE plans to hold a press conference in Boston later some more. We'll be with you for that at 11:30. ICE embedded with Fox, or Fox embedded with ICE, as we all know. The operation also included arrest of so-called collaterals. This is probably what happened in Milford. Illegal aliens who weren't ICE's priority, but were with the person they were targeting. Or maybe they were they could have been driving the car that belonged to somebody they were targeting. You see how, like, if you're driving the car that belongs to an illegal alien and ICE pulls it over and you also coincidentally are in the country, yeah, you could get caught up in it, right? Yeah. Again, you're in the country illegally. So yeah. And maybe they're not even looking for your mom or your dad. Maybe they're looking for an associate of your mom or your dad. Or maybe, yeah, who knows? But like when you run a sanctuary district or jurisdiction, ICE is going to surge. Tom Homan has been saying this for a long time, since the day he took off. ICE is going to surge in your community and arrest who they find. They're going to go after the worst of the worst, but some other people get caught in the net. Which they're also illegal and they shouldn't be here. But I mean, clearly, the worst of the worst are our immediate priority, we'll say. So when Governor Healy says, I demand answers, remember, she's the one that told Larry O'Donnell, I'll absolutely not cooperate. We're absolutely not cooperating. So here she is, classic Maura Healey, where she says, I'm absolutely not going to cooperate, but now I demand immediate answers. You're not part of the solution here, Maura. You're part of the problem. The reason why ICE is surging, if we need an answer to why this 18-year-old kid got arrested in Milford, the answer is Maura Healey's policies. If you had a policy where you were cracking down on illegal immigrants in Massachusetts, this 18-year-old kid wouldn't have been caught up in the problem. And the only reason he got caught up in the problem is because you, Maura Healey, run a sanctuary state. Whether you say that you know what that is or not, the reason why this kid got arrested is because of you. Because ICE wouldn't be here in this on this scale if it wasn't for the sanctuary state that you, Maura Healey, run. And that's just a fact. So when you see tweets like this, where is it here? Over the weekend from Maura Healey, I'm demanding immediate answers about the rest of the Milford student. Where is he in due process? Blah, 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 blah. And then she has the gall for this second sentence. The Trump administration continues to create fear in our communities, and it's making us all less safe. Listen, Maura. You have created fear in our communities by allowing these illegal aliens to find sanctuary here in Massachusetts. If you escape justice in some god-awful third world country, and I made a video about this last week using AI just as a joke, you run out of the prison and you have an escape map And where does it tell you to go? It tells you to go to Massachusetts. That video actually really wasn't a joke. We are a sanctuary for criminals who, how many times have ICE arrested some criminal wanted for some horrific crime back in wherever? It happens all the time. And when bad guys get here to Massachusetts, because you give their families free food and free hotels, they commit crimes here in Massachusetts. Who's creating fear in our communities? You are. Pretty fired up today. And when she says things like this, it's just outrageous. The Healy administration and the Massachusetts Democrats continue to create fear in all of our communities by harboring illegal alien criminals. Maura has made us less safe. By the way, all credit to Anti-Woo Coalition for having a really good bullet point summary of this tweet by Bill Malhusian. So good for that account. Good for that account. Trying to run a business here, just taking care of that. Okay. Good for that account, Anti-Woo. We'll just pick it up here. Hundreds were previously released by sanctuary cities despite ICE detainers. Arrest included an international murderer, 2 child rapists, a fentanyl trafficker, an adult rapist, and a child sexual assaulter. You just can't believe what you're reading here. We'll see if we have any. We're going to go to the comments pretty quick. Let's see. On YouTube, Mary says, great news to start the week. Yeah, right. I don't know whether it's great news, but God, it is. Thank you, Mary. It is news. Yeah. Angry Survivor. They are here illegally. Right. I get it. Like, they all need to go back. If you're here in the country illegally, you need to go back. But for worst of the worst first, exactly. They all got to go, as she follows up. All got to go. They all got to go. All right. So that is the press conference, and that will be on at 11:30. We'll be back at 11:30 to cover that important press conference. In the meantime, out in Colorado, I know this is going to come as a complete shock if you haven't heard it already, but an illegal alien in this country illegally let in by the Biden administration during the term of Biden threw Molotov cocktails at a parade of folks, almost exclusively or predominantly of the Jewish faith, Jews, in Boulder, Colorado. They were marching, as they do on a weekly basis, from what I understand, to bring the hostages back from the horrific October 7th attacks in Israel. And so this is a weekly event, apparently. And so the terrorist knew where to find them at this organized event. And it just horrific. He's now been charged with murder, although from what I read in the fine print, there is not yet any fatalities, fortunately. But I think they probably put that on. There's probably some administrative procedure for why that is. He's also being held on $10 million bond, which here, if this happened in Massachusetts, the bond would be like $10, right? The bond would be $10. Understand that these people vote. These are Maura voters. She wants more of this. Free press, free Palestine terrorism. The global intifada comes to Boulder 11 days after the murders in Washington, D.C. So as you might remember, 10, 12 days ago, we had the horrific, just like unspeakable, that fine couple, the beautiful couple at the Jewish Museum in Washington, shot. And the guy is chanting free Palestine. just like they do at all the campuses or a lot of the campuses here in Massachusetts, right? And all of the professors that foment that type of hate, they're the base of the Democrat Party. And who is the leader of the Democrat Party in Massachusetts? It's Maura Healey, Elizabeth Warren, and to some extent, Ed Markey. And then she demands answers. Yeah, she's gonna get them. She's gonna get answers. Cat turd. There's so much to unpack here. It's a perfect picture to show who the Democrat Party really is. You got the welcoming flag, not so welcoming, right? With the terrorist in the foreground, holding the Molotov. He's literally holding the Molotov cocktails in his hand. Again, Bill Maloogian. He's everywhere. He's Colorado. He's Massachusetts. 3 Homeland Security sources tell Fox that the Boulder suspect is an Egyptian national here in the United States illegally, and then he goes through the details, but effectively he should have been gone by March at the latest. Biden gave him a work authorization. Why would Biden give him a work authorization, which expired on March 28th of this year? Horrified by the attack in Boulder and keeping the victims and their families in my thoughts. I thought it was insensitive nowadays to say thoughts and prayers. America confronts a disturbing rise in anti-Semitism. Where does that come from, Maura? We continue to stand with our... No, you don't. And we contempt... No, you don't. Nobody believes that. Nobody believes that. Nobody believes that. Thank you for my friend who just sent me a domestic direct message. I'll read that later. I'm trying to do the show here. But thank you for that. Steve Ferguson from Worcester, who may be the last sane man in Worcester, says this: the heated rhetoric from the Democrat Party created the atmosphere to spawn the terrorist attack in Boulder, Colorado yesterday. Yes, Stephen. You've got bingo on this one. Yes. The heated rhetoric from the Democrat Party, who in Massachusetts, the leader is Governor Healey, created the atmosphere to spawn the terrorist attack in Boulder, Colorado, and also in Washington, D.C. And the other, there's been any number of horrific incidents. We could go through a whole list, right? Go through a whole list. The thing in Pennsylvania at the governor's, there's a whole list of these things. But clearly, Columbia University, all of that is spawned by the base of the Democrat Party. The very base of the Democrat Party is the heart of this anti-Semitism. And then when we tie it all in to one of the largest institutions which is sponsoring this hate is Harvard University. When Trump attacked Harvard University in the last couple of weeks, Maura Healey is like, oh no, they're all going to go to China. Harvard is the hotbed of this type of thinking. And this is what happens when you sponsor and spawn this type of hatred. And thank you, by the way, MIT, also you, while we're at it. You know, I went to the campus protest at MIT last year, or in Tufts, and all of those places. If you went there as a student and you put up a bunch of tents and you were just said, hey, we're pro-American, you'd be swept off that quad in like 3 seconds. But because you're sitting there and you're saying you're pro-Palestinian, they run a power cord. At MIT, literally, I found the power cord. The administration was saying, we don't want the protest on the quad. And instead of cutting off the power, they literally had this giant extension cord that ran right into the camp. And Corn Booth is saying, oh, we don't want you guys got to leave. But literally, the number one thing you do, I'm not a military guy, but I know I have some military people that watch that. What is the number one thing you do? You cut off the power. And I was there on campus, and I knocked into the police chief. Well, not physically, but he said hello to me. He wasn't very happy. I was making a video of how the power cord from the camp runs right to the utility box run by the school. The school could easily have unplugged their power. And the police chief wasn't very happy when I was making the video because it was embarrassing. Because they really weren't upset about the Palestine protest. They were supporting it with literally the electricity. They could have literally pulled the plug. They didn't want to because they support it. Stephen Miller. The terror attack was committed in Boulder by an illegal alien. He was granted a tourist visa by the Biden administration and then illegally overstayed his visa. In response, the Biden administration gave him a work permit. Suicidal migration must be fully reversed. Hello, have you seen any headlines from Europe? Have you seen any headlines from Europe? My old friend who I've not spoken to in a long time, I am Michael Graham. Why would the Biden administration give a work permit to someone they knew was in the U.S. illegally? I don't know, Michael. Maybe Biden was asleep on the job. Could maybe he wasn't as sharp as he could be, Michael? I'm just saying. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe Biden kind of hit the snooze button that day a little bit, Michael. I don't know. Let's follow up here on our Massachusetts angle. By the way, great to have all of you here today. Thank you so much. Let's see here. We have another comment from Angry Survivor. The governor, the lieutenant governor, Andrea Campbell, and the mayor all need to go to prison. Well, I don't know. It would be nice if they just went to the electoral dustbin and then got defeated. Let's start with that. Bill Malhusian, and again, anti-Woo coalition. One of the most disturbing parts of Malhusian's coverage was this, and this is a 12-second clip. We'll play this here. Hold on a second. We'll cue it up. Was this clip, which I followed up with, and this was from late last week. So there's a backstory to this. Take a listen.
Then in a second incident yesterday, ICE says they were surveilling a murderer's home in their car when a crowd surrounded their vehicle, blew their cover, and they had to pull off the target. Again, a murderer.
Wow.
Again, a murderer. So in so many of these instances, just like out in Worcester, we were told that ICE was abusive. ICE was abusive. And then the body camera came out from the cops. And like, oops, I guess no. Actually, it was the city councilor and the school committee candidate. They were the perpetrators. They were the ones that were causing the chaos. Remember, ICE had a chaotic arrest on a Worcester side street. But it was only chaotic because the far left anti-ICE nut jobs showed up and made it chaotic. That was the only reason it was chaotic, led by the city councilor. Who's surprisingly quiet nowadays. Maybe she's gone underground. She doesn't want to get herself indicted by the federal government. So in this particular story, where Bill Malhusian is saying that they were obstructed in the arrest of a murderer. This occurred in Somerville. The murderer was actually close to the high school. He was in that. If you're familiar with Somerville, it's on Highland Ave. An activist later posted a video boasting that they got ICE to leave the area so that ICE was not going to kidnap kids from school. And thank you, Bill Malhusian. I found this video on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, and I posted the video to X. I cross-posted it to X because here's this nut job boasting and proud of his crime. This is that video is effectively an admission that he obstructed federal law, that he and others obstructed federal law enforcement when the community exerts its power. Let me tell you, kid, the community is represented by the guys with guns and badges, and they work for the federal officials. And how do they get their power? They get their power from the people. You might remember we just had this big thing in November where all the people, the citizens, the adult citizens, get to go to the polling place and vote, and then whoever wins gets the power from the people, right? You might remember that's called an election. And when you say that the community decides, that's called anarchy. That's called anarchy. And that's what this little snot from Somerville is touting. He's touting anarchy. This is the same argument we heard from the folks out in Worcester when they said the community decided that they weren't going to get arrested. And so that's why they literally threw themselves on the hood of the car. You've seen the video if you've been following this channel. The city councilor literally on the hood of the car. The school committee candidate literally on the hood of the car so that ICE cannot drive away with the person that they had come to arrest who's in our country illegally. Also horrified that kid is wearing a Buc-ee's hat, which I went to Buc-ee's on my most recent road trip, as some of you might know. And I'm now a huge Buc-ee's fan. And I'm also horrified he's wearing a Buc-ee's hat. That's disgusting. Here is Bill Maloogian again. This is like the Bill Maloogian show. This is a blatant lie from anti-ICE activists. ICE tells us they were surveilling a murder suspect who was near the school when the crowd surrounded them and blew their cover. The Somerville School District released a statement confirming that ICE never stepped foot on campus. That's because they were probably looking for this murderer. Somerville's a tightly knit. It's not a spread out farm community in the middle of South Dakota, right? It's a packed small little city, and the high school and the houses, they're all very close proximity, densely populated. For those of you who are watching or not familiar with Somerville, up over in Milford, the faux outrage continues, as observed by friend of the show, John Featherston. Milford, Massachusetts anti-ICE rally today. Zero facts, tons of misinformation, irresponsible media. And so here they are. The problem is Milford has a massive illegal immigration population. And if you look at these faces, there are a lot of, how do we say this, white folks here in Milford. Education, not deportation. You're seeing a lot of people that are basically saying we shouldn't have ICE at all. And this is motivating the left. Understand that this is a huge motivator for Democrats, believe it or not. The Democrats are fired up. If you look at the electoral results from a lot of elections, especially the local elections that we usually have in an off year or an odd numbered year in the spring, a lot of those are being won by Democrats, or even though they're nonpartisan elections, they're being won by people who are effectively Democrats, even though they're not, partisan technically. That's because the Democrat base, they are super fired up. They're very, very upset. Now, here's the next major protest, which is actually down the street from my house, so to figuratively speaking, 7 or 8 miles away. But here in beautiful Plymouth on Thursday, 5:30 p.m., they are going to be out there protesting Sheriff McDonald and the ICE agreement now. And they want to cancel what is known as, I believe it's called the 287G cooperative agreement from the Plymouth County House of Corrections. So when Sheriff Flynn built the prison, He built it a larger capacity. As my old friend Sheriff DeMello once said, build it and they will come. Barnstable County Sheriff, when we actually had he was a Vietnam hero, and he was a good guy. DeMello, but DeMello used to say, build it and they will come. And he was always in favor of building a bigger jail because he knew that he could basically sub out the extra space and that would pay for it, be cheaper for the whole thing. And Flynn did that here in Plymouth County. And now I believe Plymouth County House of Correction, which is up at Exit 5 near Home Depot here in beautiful Plymouth, I believe they're the only 287G facility in Massachusetts. And the far left nut jobs want to end that contract. They want to end that contract. They already ended it in Bristol County, and they ended it in Bristol County by knocking off the elected sheriff, Sheriff Hodgins, in place of the new guy. And the new guy got rid of it, and he converted the building. And now they want to make it logistically very difficult to run the type of operation that ICE just ran that made our streets safer. So they want to take away the infrastructure to run operations that ICE just ran. When ICE just took 1,461 of these people off the street, some of them went to Plymouth County, probably some of them went to the Rhode Island facility. Some of them probably went to Vermont. They filled the space where they could. Understand in places like Florida, almost the entire state cooperates with 287G. In Massachusetts, I believe there's just one such facility. Somebody could fact check me on that, but I believe it's just one such facility. That's it. That's it. And just like in Worcester, what we're seeing in Milford, what's going to happen in Milford is that we're going to find out the facts of this particular high school student. And we're going to either find out that it was a mistake, and when you sweep up 1,400 people, it could be a mistake, and he might go back to school. I don't know. Or we're going to find out why he got arrested or detained or whatever the term is. We're going to probably should ask, hello, Boston media, probably should ask, where are the parents? Where are the parents? When is the Boston media going to ask that question? In the meantime, the far left wants to continue to promote the concept of ICE no-go zones. Here is Jillian Phillips. She works for a nonprofit based in Worcester, and she told the Playbook or Worcester Telegram Gazette, I understand that their hands are tied in terms of what the federal government is doing, but our schools and our state courthouses are state governed, and so they could do a lot more to put protections in those spaces. I love how these people don't speak directly. Protections in those spaces. We need to put protections in those spaces. In other words, they want ICE no-go zones. They want ICE no-go zones. That's what they want. We need to put protections in those. They always speak in euphemism. They're unable to speak directly. We have a big audience today. Thank you so much for joining us. And again, I'll see you. We'll be not rebroadcasting. We'll do another live stream at 11:30, which I would imagine that that press conference probably won't start sharply at 11:30, but we will be there. We'll carry it for you. A follow-up to a video that I made, I don't know, was about 10 or 12 days ago. Is DeZoglio running for governor? So, by the way, just as an aside, I look really good with that hat. I'm just saying. Is DeZoglio running for governor? So it ends up that somebody else asked her the question. Where did this thing go? So somewhere on her visit to the On the Record about auditing the state legislature, somewhere in here, in State House News Service in their master list email this morning, I didn't watch this whole thing. I got better things to do. But somewhere in this interview, she said she's not running for governor. She said she's not running for governor, according to the State House News summary of that interview. And let me just tell you, I would never have posted a video like this. I would never have posted a video like this to plant the seed in some reporter's mind to get them to ask DeZoglio if she's running for governor. I would never have done that. I would never have thrown out the trial balloon in order to get a reporter to ask the question to find out. No, I wouldn't have done that. All right. Up next in Mayor Wu's Boston. By the way, before we go on to that Mayor Wu story, DeZoglio is threatening to file an audit about the mass save. Oh, sign me up for that. Can I get an alert about that? There is mass save, is riddled with a massive amount of fraud. And yeah, sign me up for that audit. I can't wait for that. There is just a massive amount of fraud in there. Oh, by the way, and while we're at it, I haven't mentioned Mass Fiscal, which almost always get mentioned in every live stream, almost. In this Globe article, which of course we don't read the Globe here, Transit Police Chief said public corruption could run rampant in Suffolk County. Public corruption could run rampant in Suffolk County. Public corruption does run rampant in Suffolk County and pretty much all the other counties that we have too in Massachusetts. So talking about Boston, back to this here yesterday. So I'm going to actually bring this up on the full screen if I can here. Let's see if we can do that. Here we go here. So this is video of this guy called Sean Nelson, who I don't know him. I think I met him once, and you might remember he got arrested at City Hall a while back. And he's a sworn enemy of Mayor Wu. He and this other guy, DePina, who used to be a Wu supporter, but now he's a critic for whatever reason. They were, how do I want to say this generously, heckling Mayor Wu while she marched in the Dorchester Day Parade, which, wow, it's been a long time since I've been in the Dorchester Day Parade. But yeah, it appeared that Mr. Nelson was riding a bicycle down Dorchester Avenue, and he had a body camera on him, and he recorded what happened. Let's pick it up. So there's a number of cops, as you can see, and the mayor is somewhere up ahead of him there.
Oh, once again, Michelle Wu and her people making up rules for themselves. Now you're trying to tell me I can't use my blowhorn.
And I think that's Mr. DePina complaining about his blowhorn somewhere in the background.
They're trying to tell me I can't use my blowhorn. But Michelle, you will use a blowhorn.
And there's a significant police presence, and that's Mr. DePina with the blowhorn. And I do believe there is some type of regulation about using a blowhorn, but in some communities.
Oh, hell no. Where do we look at? Donald Trump is not here. Shame on Wu. We have a right to use a blowhorn. What is that?
All right, now I want you to pay attention to the two people in the immediate foreground here, one of which, the man, I believe, is the police commissioner. And then I would imagine the woman that's a little bit closer, I think she's a police officer or some type of government official, probably with the walking along with the police commissioner.
What rules are you making up now for Michelle Wu?
And in the
don't push me.
slightly
Don't push
ahead, you can also see that there's a group of bicyclists, bike cops, already ahead. I don't know, like 20 yards ahead. They're already gathering.
Don't even touch me. Don't touch me. No, he's trying to push somebody. What's your name and badge number? What's your name? What's your name and badge number? What's your name and badge number? So she works for the city, but she ain't giving a name. Don't worry, I'll get the EMS report.
All right, so if you really pay attention, because of this like phalanx of cops that are up here that have stopped, they've already made the decision to arrest Mr. Nelson and Mr. DePina. They're just waiting for Mr. Nelson to catch up to them. And here they go.
I'll get the EMS to report your ass.
Sean, come on. Sean.
Don't talk to me, sorry.
Excuse me, you stepping on my foot.
And I said, excuse me, get off my way. Get out of my way. Get out. Up, look at them. Look at them. Police brutality. What are you arresting?
All right, so it's not police brutality. They're not slamming him to the side. That's ridiculous.
To them for?
Hey, listen, we're gonna arrest you too.
What was the charge? What's the charge? That's not a law. That's not a law. Yeah, you asked me many times. Did you? What's the charge? Charge. I want the actual law that you're charging me with.
Hold on, let me see. Going?
Yeah, he's going. He's getting arrested. What's the charge? I actually asked Mr. Nelson what the charge was. And Mr. Nelson responded. He told me what the charge was. He said trespassing, disturbance of the peace, and willful violation of an ordinance without citing which ordinance. Now, let's be clear. Mr. Nelson and Mr. DePina, they were, how's the best way to say it politely? They were obnoxious, heckling the mayor on a closed street. They were biking down the street. I thought the mayor liked bicyclists. They were biking down the street, heckling the mayor and apparently also the police commissioner. I'm pretty sure that I never saw his face, but that seemed to be the police commissioner. But while that would be obnoxious, rude, and not something that I would want to hear as part of my Dorchester Day celebration, and this would not be my style of political protest, that seems to me to be covered by the First Amendment. Seems to me to be covered by the First Amendment. She's an elected official. It's not like he was screaming at some private person. He was screaming at the mayor and I think the police commissioner. And that seems to be protected by the First Amendment, no matter how obnoxious and it was. It still seems to be protected. And they arrest him for trespassing on a public street. The mayor seems incredibly. I thought Tom Menino had thin skin, which he did. But that seems incredibly thin skinned. The way to handle that is to just let them go. He didn't hit anybody with the bicycle that I saw. I don't know what Mr. DePina did because he's not fully covered by the camera during the whole time. But from what I saw, Mr. Nelson didn't hit anybody with the bicycle or anything, nor did I see the police come up to Mr. Nelson and say, hey, you really got to stop this. We're going to give you one more warning. No, it was like they were up ahead and then they just decided. And this is overreach as far as I'm concerned. And not that again, not a friend of Mr. Nelson. I only met him once, but I think that's just like way overboard. And yeah, not my style of protest, but this is the type of heckling at a public event that must be protected under the First Amendment, must be protected under and again, if you don't protect the speech of those that you might not agree with or you find distasteful, then which speech are you going to allow? Let's see, anybody else here? No, but we do have a big crowd today, which is great. Thank you so much for coming. Any other topics I had here? I thought there was one other thing. Not at the moment. Not at the moment. Other than let's see. This is just so funny. I'm just gonna put this up. This is actually from Steve L57 from the Cape. Daddy, I want to be mayor. So is having just blasted Mayor Wu and the Boston Police Department for the last 5 minutes. I will say, just for the record, that's not an endorsement of Mr. Kraft for mayor, who I'm less than impressed with. And again, to me, I don't think the city of Austin is so far gone anyways that whether we get Kraft or Wu again, in essence, it doesn't really matter. They're both going to drive the place into the ground either way. I'm not a fan of either of them. All right, we will see you at 11:30 for the big, important press conference where Maura Healey gets some answers. She wanted answers. She's going to get some at 11:30 from U.S. Attorney Leah Foley. Talk to you then. Bye-bye.